Welcome to the Deep Dive. In a world constantly buzzing with information, headlines, and just endless demands on our attention, it's easy to feel like we're just skimming the surface. We absorb facts, we hear chatter, but are we truly listening?
It's a crucial distinction, isn't it? A really important one. Today, we're taking a deep dive into what it means to genuinely listen, far beyond simply hearing sounds. We're exploring how this foundational skill can transform our relationships, our understanding of ourselves, and maybe even our connection to something much larger than us.
That's right. Our mission today is to unpack a stack of, well, incredible insights from psychology, philosophy, and ancient wisdom traditions that show us listening isn't just passive, not just something that happens to you.
No, it's a powerful, intentional practice.
Exactly. We'll discover some surprising facts, practical techniques, and hopefully just enough humor to help you become truly well-informed about this art of attentiveness.
Sounds great. Where should we start?
So let's unpack this core idea first. The fundamental difference between just hearing something and actually listening. It sounds simple, maybe obvious, but our sources tell us there's a world of distinction. Hearing, for instance, is largely involuntary.
Right.
It's a sensory input that just happens to us. Think of it like, I don't know, background hum you can't quite escape. Some ancient texts even describe it like that you might keep on hearing but not truly understand. It's just sounds forcing their way in.
Exactly. Hearing is a physical process, right?
Yeah.
Sounds entering our ears, our brain processing them. Pretty automatic. But listening, that's something entirely different. It's a conscious act of will.
An act of will.
Yeah, a focused attention that involves not just your ears, but your mind, your heart, even you could say your posture. It's an active choice, a kind of mental and emotional leaning in. You choose to do it.
And this isn't some, new age concept, is it? This idea of deep, intentional listening is profoundly rooted in ancient wisdom and philosophical traditions, all over the place, really.
Oh, definitely. For instance, you find timeless advice suggesting things like, if one gives answer before hearing, it is folly and shame.
Makes sense.
And another familiar saying counsels us to be quick to listen, slow to speak. That one's everywhere.
Yeah, I've heard that.
What's fascinating here, I think, is how many traditions emphasize that true learning, or, following a path of personal growth, often begins with listening.
How so?
Well, think of stories where individuals just drop everything to respond to some profound calling or message. It's an act of listening first, and then an immediate response. It highlights that listening is fundamental to understanding and, well, decisive action.
So it's about response, too. That's key. And you see this even in our everyday language, right? When a parent tells you their child doesn't listen, they often mean they don't obey.
Exactly. Or when you get lost and someone says, you should have listened to me.
Yeah.
They mean, you should have done what I told you to do. There's this inherent expectation of a response, of action, baked into true listening. It's not just passively taking in information. It's about what you do with it, how you let it shape you, maybe.
Okay, that really clarifies the distinction. So why cultivate this listening life? Why put in the effort? Our sources suggest it goes so much deeper than just making our relationship smoother or fostering interpersonal peace. Though that's good too.
Right, that's part of it, but it's bigger.
Yeah.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, it's really about profound interpersonal transformation.
Inside ourselves.
Interpersonal.
Okay.
Yeah, it's essential for becoming the person you truly wish to be. I mean, think about it. All the talking in the world won't satisfy our longings for intimacy if our conversations just feel like competitions or taking turns talking. True identity, our sources suggest, isn't found in just asserting our own voice in isolation, but often in helping others find theirs. By listening to them.
That's powerful. Wow. And it really pushes back against what we see so much today, this modern phenomenon of what are often called echo chambers.
Oh, definitely.
We kind of hoped the internet would foster dialogue, right? But sometimes it feels like it's done the opposite.
Well, this raises an important question, doesn't it? Why does the internet, despite its promise of connecting us globally, often lead to people settling into their own little truth corners?
Yeah, why is that?
Our sources note that social media, for instance, has frequently intensified and even radicalized beliefs because people connect primarily with like-minded individuals. We filter out challenging voices.
We curate our own reality.
Exactly. True listening pushes against that comfort zone and invites genuine intellectual curiosity, maybe even some discomfort.
It's kind of like that old story, the parable of the sower, right? With the farmer and the different types of soil. The farmer's seeds land on all these various terrains. And the story starts by saying, listen, and ends with, let anyone with ears to hear listen. It's framed by listening.
That's a great connection. It's not just about the farmer. It's a lesson about different types of reception, how we receive things.
Right. Some ideas land on hard ground, just deflected. Others sprout quickly but then wither under struggle. Some get choked by distraction.
Yeah, the thorny ground.
And then there are those that land on fertile ground, taking root deeply and yielding something new. So merely hearing the words isn't enough, is it? It depends on the soil, the listener.
Not at all. And that ties into another challenge. We have expanded access to information now more than ever, yet our sources argue this doesn't necessarily mean we're gaining more wisdom.
Interesting point. Information isn't wisdom.
Exactly. We're sampling everything, maybe, but digesting very little, often filtering out anything that challenges our existing beliefs.
Mm.
Wisdom, by contrast, is described in these texts as a deep relational knowledge that comes through slow listening, often to unexpected voices. It's about letting ideas truly sink in, wrestle with them.
And speaking of senses, it's fascinating how much we tend to rely on sight for knowledge, isn't it?
It is.
Our sources point out that ancient Greek thought often equated to see with to know. Philosophers claimed eyes were more accurate witnesses than ears. We associate eyes with identity, intimacy, even windows to the soul. But what's the contrast with sound? What does sound offer?
What's fascinating here is that while sight often takes things apart, analyzes, emphasizes distance, sound, conversely, tends to incorporate and unify. It surrounds you.
Ah, okay.
It suggests that listening offers a unique, maybe more holistic path to deep personal knowledge rather than just objective observation. Listening involves a different kind of engagement, a bringing together rather than a separating. It's about being immersed, not just observing from afar.
Okay, let's unpack this because this is where the rubber meets the road. The practical art of listening to others. How do we actually do it better? Our sources offer this really powerful image from an ancient text. Someone standing at a door, knocking, saying, "Listen, if you hear my voice and open the door, I will come in to you and share a meal." What does this tell us about listening?
What's fascinating here is the image of listening as an act of profound hospitality.
Hospitality.
Yeah, it's like inviting others into your space, into vulnerability and intimacy. It means opening yourself up to surprise, to receiving unexpected perspectives, maybe being changed by them. And in many cultures, sharing a meal wasn't trivial. It was a deeply intimate act, something shared among equals.
So listening levels the playing field.
In a way, yes. It levels the playing field and opens you to being genuinely affected, maybe even changed by the other person.
And the core principle for good listening is almost, well, scandalous in its simplicity. It's not about you.
Ah, yes. Simple, but incredibly hard.
Right. Because, let's be honest, that gravitational pull towards ourselves is relentless. How do we fight that urge to make it about us?
The pushing the arrow metaphor is a great guide here. I love this one. Imagine a mind-reading arrow that always points to where the conversation's attention is focused. Your goal, as the listener, is to ruthlessly, and I use that word, ruthlessly, push and keep that arrow pointing at the other person. Encourage them to keep talking, to go deeper into their thoughts, their feelings.
So you're constantly redirecting the focus away from yourself.
Exactly. It's about keeping their interests, their needs, their heart at the center, even though our natural tendency, that gravitational pull, is always to pull the attention back to ourselves. It takes real discipline, constant vigilance almost.
So what does this look like in practice? What are some concrete techniques to actually push the arrow and keep the focus where it needs to be?
Well, one key is using open-ended questions.
Yeah.
Those that can't be answered with just a simple yes or no, they invite more explanation.
Right, like how did that make you feel instead of did that make you mad?
Precisely. But here's where it gets really interesting and often overlooked, according to our sources. The power of the second question.
The second question.
Yeah, it's deceptively simple, yet incredibly powerful. After someone shares something, maybe something significant, instead of immediately jumping in with your own thoughts or experiences, just pause and ask, can you tell me more about that? Or why did that interaction bother you so much? Something that invites them to continue. This simple move interrupts the usual back and forth, that talking tennis match we often fall into.
Yeah, the ping pong?
Right. It builds trust, slows the pace, and honestly, it can open up a whole world. It's amazing what comes out when you just give someone the space to continue, to go a level deeper.
That's brilliant. Gosh, I can instantly think of situations where I should have just asked a second question instead of jumping in. And what about when someone is expressing strong emotions? Anger, sadness. How do we listen in a way that truly validates rather than dismissing or trying to fix what they're feeling?
That's crucial. Our sources suggest reflecting back and validating emotions. It's more than just summarizing facts. For example, if your partner is ranting about a micromanaging boss, instead of saying, so your boss did X and Y, you might say, wow, it sounds like you're feeling really angry and controlled at work these days. And then just pause. Be quiet.
So you name the feeling.
Yes, you're identifying the core feeling, which, honestly, the speaker might not even fully recognize in themselves in that moment. This validates their experience, makes them feel truly seen and heard, and it often opens the conversation to go deeper because the emotional core has been acknowledged.
Okay. Now, I've definitely been guilty of jumping straight to advice when someone comes to me with a problem. It's like an instinct. What's a better approach there, according to these insights?
The classic fix-it impulse. We all do it. When someone asks for advice, instead of immediately dispensing solutions, try responding with a question like, why do you ask?
Why do you ask? That's simple.
It can be. Or, what solutions have you thought about already? It immediately takes the conversation to a deeper level, often uncovering their underlying motivation or the real struggle, which is often what they truly want to discuss anyway.
So they might not actually be looking for my answer.
Exactly. They might not be looking for an answer as much as they're looking for someone to help them articulate the real question or just process their own thoughts out loud.
Got it. So it's not just about what we say, but also how we appear to be listening, right? What about those active listening techniques, the nonverbals?
Absolutely. Active listening involves visibly showing your engagement. Think nods, consistent but not, creepy eye contact.
Right, yeah.
Verbal affirmations like uh-huh or okay, and an attentive posture, maybe leaning forward slightly. Our sources compare it to an engaged audience, like in some church traditions, encouraging a speaker with their vocal responses. It sort of nudges the speaker forward.
It shows you're right there with them.
Precisely. It encourages them, makes them feel safer to share more openly. It communicates presence.
And crucially, the sources emphasize non-judgmental presence. This sounds hard. Our job isn't to judge, critique, or pronounce a verdict on what they're saying.
That's right. It's a huge shift. A listener's job in this model is to enter into another person's world, to take their perspective, trying to see, think, and feel as they do. It's not about being impartial like a judge assessing facts, but decidedly partial in the sense of trying to understand their experience from their viewpoint.
Wow. Taking their side, almost.
In a way, yes, for the purpose of understanding. This is a slow, concentrated process that builds genuine connection, not judgment.
And part of that deep listening is having what's sometimes called a good ear. Right? Listening below the surface for what's not being said.
Yeah, a good ear means listening between the lines for the subtext, the untold story, the hidden emotions, doubts, or maybe deep-seated beliefs that are driving the surface conversation. It's understanding that we often say what we think we mean, but there's often a deeper layer, isn't there?
Always.
And there's incredible power, our sources say, in simply naming the core feeling you'd suspect might be underneath. Afraid, angry, hurt, ashamed, sad. Just offering the word.
What happens then?
Often, you can almost see a physical relaxation in the speaker as the feeling is identified and named. It's like a weight has been lifted just by acknowledging the reality of that emotion.
And this requires tentativeness, doesn't it? Not acting like you're the expert on someone else's life, even if you're naming their feelings.
Precisely. You absolutely don't know the answers for them. Good listening involves good guesswork, maybe, asking careful questions, and always clarifying with phrases like, if I'm hearing you right, you are saying, is that accurate?
Checking in.
Constantly checking in. This helps them find their own solutions, their own clarity, rather than you trying to solve it for them. You're more like a guide or a midwife helping them birth their own understanding, not a guru dispensing wisdom.
Okay. Now, there are some common listening pitfalls we need to avoid. The at least syndrome sounds depressingly familiar. I think we've all been guilty of this one.
Oh, absolutely. It's so common. This is when we try to diminish someone's pain with phrases like, well, at least you have your health, or at least it's not as bad as what this other person is experiencing.
Trying to cheer them up, maybe.
Yeah, often with good intentions. But our sources caution that at least statements almost always diminish pain. We need to let people have their pain. Sometimes it's all they have in that moment, and trying to put a silver lining on it actually invalidates their genuine experience. It shuts them down.
Right. Don't minimize. And the quick apology after we've hurt someone, you're saying that's not always for their benefit either.
No, it often isn't. Often a fast apology is more for our comfort, to ease our guilt or awkwardness, not theirs. It can inadvertently prevent full reconciliation because it bypasses their true pain and the messy, necessary process of repair.
So what's the alternative?
Sometimes the listener's role is simply to affirm the raw agony, to sit with it. Our sources even suggest sometimes just saying something like, yeah, this situation really sucks, doesn't it, can be more helpful than a quick apology because it validates the feeling and can open the floodgates for true emotion and eventually deeper healing.
Okay, here's where it gets really interesting for me. Anxiety as the enemy of good listening. Especially when someone else's pain hits close to home for us.
This is a subtle but powerful one. What's fascinating here is how listening to others in pain inevitably stirs up our own anxiety, doesn't it? When their struggles echo our own unacknowledged doubts or fears, maybe about finances or health or relationships, it can make us really uncomfortable. And that discomfort makes us rush conversations, offer quick platitudes, or jump to fast advice.
Because we want the discomfort to stop.
Exactly. This anxiety leads to poor listening because subconsciously we're trying to make our discomfort go away rather than truly sitting with their pain. It's a huge barrier. Recognizing our own anxiety in those moments is key.
But empathy doesn't mean you have to have gone through the exact same thing, does it? It's not about having identical experiences.
Not at all. That's a common misconception. Empathy, according to these insights, is about choosing to enter another's difficult places, to shiver in the cold with them, and to wait with them, as one source puts it beautifully. It's about a willingness to be present in their suffering, even if you haven't experienced it identically yourself. It's about connection, human connection, not necessarily comparison.
We've talked a lot about listening to others, which is huge, but what about listening to our own inner world? This sounds like a really profound path to self-discovery.
Indeed. It's often overlooked. This is about discernment, paying attention to the interior movements of the soul, our thoughts, feelings, impulses, motivations, all that stuff swirling around inside.
Testing the spirits.
Exactly. It's a process of sifting the internal experiences, figuring out what's driving us, embracing what is good and life-giving, and understanding what might be holding us back or even harming us.
And our sources seem to push back pretty strongly against the idea that deep personal growth or spiritual maturity means forgetting myself or just ignoring my own inner landscape.
Yes, very strongly. What's fascinating here is this ancient philosophical notion, echoed by thinkers like John Calvin, that without knowledge of self, there is no deeper knowledge or understanding of the world around you, or even of God in his view.
So self-knowledge is key.
It's fundamental. We become fully ourselves, more integrated, by knowing our minds, hearts, souls, and even our bodies. Ignoring our inner world means we're just sort of sleepwalking, being swayed by unconscious internal forces we don't even recognize.
Which seems so easy to do today. It feels like we often go to great lengths to avoid listening to our inner selves. Modern technology certainly makes that easier, almost guarantees it, doesn't it?
It really does. Our sources suggest we often construct entire worlds filled with noise, busyness, distraction, specifically to prevent listening to what's happening inside us. Technology pretty much guarantees we never need to have a quiet moment, right?
Sure.
And distractions like endless debates online, escapism through entertainment, chronic overwork. They keep our lives feeling full, perhaps, but our souls potentially lonely and unheard. It's often easier to stuff down painful emotions with food or binge watching than to truly sit with them and digest what they're telling us.
So how do we approach those growling internal voices, the self-doubt, the accusations, the critical inner monologue that we'd normally just try to shut up or ignore?
Well, the advice here is pretty counterintuitive. We're encouraged to actually befriend them. Approach them not with disdain, but with empathy and gentleness, almost like you would a hurting friend. Ask them questions.
Ask my self-doubt questions.
Yeah, like, what are you afraid of? Or where did you learn this message? The pain they carry, believe it or not, often has something important to teach us about our past, our fears, our unmet needs. Understanding where those voices come from helps them lose their power, surprisingly, much more effectively than just laboring endlessly to silence them.
That's a radical shift, befriending the inner critic.
It is. It takes courage.
This reminds me of the AHIN principle you mentioned earlier: anger, hurt, expectation, need. Can you walk us through that again? It sounds like a fantastic, practical tool for digging into those feelings.
It truly is a powerful framework for getting beneath anger, which is often just a presenting emotion. It's the one we show, the tip of the iceberg, but not always the deepest one.
Okay.
So if you're feeling angry, maybe your partner's lateness again, you ask yourself these questions, digging down. What am I feeling? Okay, angry. What is the hurt beneath the anger? Maybe. I feel less important than our work. What is the expectation beneath the hurt? Well, I expect to be more important than her job when we have plans. And what is the need beneath that expectation? Ultimately, I need to feel valued and loved.
Wow, that takes you somewhere totally different.
Completely. It transforms the potential conversation from just an argument about lateness, which goes nowhere, to one about genuine core needs, feeling valued, feeling loved.
Yeah.
That's much more productive and, frankly, more healing for the relationship.
That's a fantastic tool. I'm going to try that. And you mentioned some practices like fasting can also amplify these inner voices, revealing hidden emotions or maybe what truly controls us.
Absolutely. Practices that involve removing external inputs or comforts, whether it's food, entertainment, constant noise, can force us to face what's inside. When you can no longer placate the wild animals snapping inside you by throwing food at them, as one source puts it graphically,
Yeah.
or distract yourself with endless scrolling, you're kind of forced to face them. Fasting, or even just dedicated periods of intense quiet or solitude, can reveal hidden sadness, anxieties, or what truly controls us, making those inner voices louder and clearer. It's an ancient practice of radical self-awareness, really.
Okay, here's where it gets really interesting for me personally, listening to our bodies. Our sources suggest we often wait until pain or burnout basically forces us to pay attention.
Yes, isn't that true? Ideally, we shouldn't wait until our hand touches the hot burner, so to speak. Our bodies are constantly giving us signals through their rhythms, movements, aches, patterns of fatigue, weaknesses.
There are whispers before the shout.
Exactly. Ignoring these whispers can lead to what our sources call dangerous fatigue and eventually burnout. And this raises an important question culturally. Why do some workplaces or even subcultures celebrate a kind of burnout mentality?
Yeah, the hustle culture.
Right. Our sources strongly emphasize it's perfectly healthy and, in fact, wise to be passionate about your work or your calling and still be well rested. Listening to your body, honoring its need for rest and rhythm, is a choice you should ideally make before it becomes an absolute necessity forced by illness or collapse. It's a profound act of self-care and stewardship.
And we also live by internal scripts or core beliefs, often unconsciously. How do we listen to those, especially if we're not always consciously aware of them? They seem so hidden sometimes.
They can be. We often operate based on these unconscious narratives, these deep-seated scripts we learn somewhere along the way, like I'm not good enough, or I always fail, or maybe money will provide security. Our sources contrast these limiting scripts with, say, a foundational affirmation of inherent worth like one text's baptism script, saying, "You are my beloved. With you I am well pleased," versus a temptation script that constantly shouts, "You must prove your worth, you must achieve more."
So we choose which script to listen to.
Exactly. True self-knowledge involves listening for these deep-seated scripts, understanding where they came from, childhood, culture, past experiences, and then consciously choosing which narrative will guide our lives. It's about reclaiming authorship of our own internal story, rather than letting old, unexamined scripts run the show.
So what does all this deep inner listening mean for our sense of purpose, our vocation or calling in life? It sounds like it's not necessarily about finding definitive, neat answers.
No, not usually. The poet Rainer Maria Rilke famously advised a young writer, "Be patient toward all that is unsolved in your heart, and try to love the questions themselves."
Love the questions.
Yes. Vocation, or finding your path then, isn't always about finding the final answers, but about discovering and learning to love the questions that are broad, searching, soul-deep, and uniquely yours. These are the questions that get you up in the morning, the ones that resonate deeply, maybe the ones that sometimes keep you up at night. They become the guiding stars of your unique path, even if the answers evolve over time.
And finally, there's this beautiful metaphor you mentioned of your life as a score, a musical composition. What does listening to that score reveal? How does that work?
Our sources suggest thinking of a life like a symphony, with varied themes, different paces, allegro, adagio, and dynamics, loud and quiet. An overly loud, crowded, chaotic outer life often indicates the same kind of internal state.
Ah, the music reflects the inner state.
Precisely. Listening to this score helps us understand our inner rhythms. Are we living at a frantic, non-stop forte? Or are there moments of quiet, of slowness? It encourages us to perhaps seek more piano, more quiet, and more adagio, more slowness, fostering a life that is complex, rich, and inspiring, one truly worth listening to, both by ourselves and others. It's about finding the harmony, the right tempo, in our own existence.
We've talked about listening inwardly and listening carefully to others, but our sources suggest our deepest listening can expand even further to broader sources of wisdom, maybe to moments of inspiration, to profound texts, and even to the natural world itself. And it seems to begin with this incredible thought that maybe a higher power or the universe itself listens to us first.
That's a really foundational idea across many, many traditions. The concept that a universal presence, or a heavenly father, listens to us first, offering active, full attention, unlike our often partial or distracted human listening. Our sources note that in many ancient texts, this divine listening and acting are often almost synonymous. There's a readiness to respond, an inherent attentiveness in the fabric of reality.
That's a profound thought. The universe itself is receptive.
It is. It shifts our perspective from constantly demanding attention to realizing we are already heard, already held within a larger attention.
So, how does this higher wisdom or universal insight speak to us? Is it always in like a booming voice from the clouds or some grand, unmistakable pronouncement?
Huh. Not usually, no. Our sources emphasize that this wisdom speaks in myriad ways, often unexpected ways. Think of stories like Elijah's experience at Mount Horeb, seeking God in the dramatic wind, the earthquake, the fire.
Right, the big stuff.
Only to find the profound insight, the divine presence in the silence, the still small voice that followed. Wisdom can come in moments of triumph, sure, but also in despair. It can be in thunderous events or quiet whispers. It might come through challenging questions that arise in our minds, or sudden, clear proclamations or insights. The idea is that the universe is a communicating cosmos, meaning insight and meaning are always available if we cultivate the capacity to listen for them.
And there's a simple daily practice, sometimes called the prayer of presence or the Samuel prayer, that can help us make space for that kind of listening.
Yes, a very simple but powerful practice, using a phrase like, "Speak, Lord, life, universe, my deepest self, your servant is listening," adapted from the story of Samuel. Repeating this throughout the day can become a simple practice to remind us that profound insights can arise through any place, any activity.
Even doing the dishes.
Even doing the dishes. It shifts our orientation from constantly demanding things from the universe or from God to simply being present to it, asking, what is this moment teaching me? What insight is available right here, right now, even in the most mundane activities?
Okay, let's talk about listening to foundational texts like ancient scriptures or core philosophical works. So many of us have tried to dissect these texts intellectually, analyze them, but our sources use this really striking image, the dead frog analogy.
Yes, it's a bit graphic but effective. What's fascinating here is the point that overly analytical approaches, while they definitely yield valuable information and are necessary, can sometimes inadvertently remove the life from a text. Just like dissecting a frog teaches you about its anatomy, but, well, the frog is no longer alive. A profound text can become just an impersonal artifact if we only approach it intellectually from a distance. Instead, our sources highlight that these texts can be places of encounter, living documents where the words somehow read us as much as we read them, laying bare our own souls, reflecting our own struggles, and prompting deep self-reflection.
So it's not about us being the sole subject examining the object.
Exactly. It's about a dynamic interaction where the text acts on us, speaks to us, challenges us.
And for many people, there's a sense that a central narrative or a key protagonist runs through all these diverse writings, connecting them.
Indeed. For many, particularly within religious traditions like Christianity, there's a core belief that a central figure, like Jesus, or a core redemptive message permeates every page, linking ancient writings like the Old Testament with more recent ones like the New Testament. This protagonist or theme is seen as a unifying thread to whom all the diverse parts of the narrative ultimately point, giving the whole collection a deeper coherence and purpose.
So how do we engage with a text in a way that allows it to read us, to truly resonate deeply? One creative method mentioned involves using our senses and imagination. Ignatian contemplation, I think it's called.
Yes, that's one powerful, immersive method, drawing from Ignatian spirituality, but adaptable to any compelling story or historical account, really. You immerse yourself in the scene imaginatively, engaging all your senses. You try to feel the heat of a desert sun, smell the dust, see the faces of the characters in the story, hear their voices.
You put yourself in the story.
Exactly. You interact with the central figures as if they were present. You ask them questions that resonate with your own life experience, like, where in my own life do I find courage like this character? Or what are my own places of pain that mirror this situation? Then you just listen for a response. Maybe not audible words, but an inner sense, their imagined tone, a subtle shift in your own feeling, an insight. It's a deep and personal encounter that aims to bring the text alive within you.
And there's another powerful practice involving slow contemplative reading, lectio divina.
Right, Lectio Divina, or sacred reading. This involves slow, repeated engagement with a short passage of text. You read it slowly, maybe several times, listening for a particular word or phrase that seems to shimmer or leap out or sing to you in that moment.
Like something grabs your attention specifically.
Precisely. That's taken as a clue that deeper meaning is emerging there for you right now. It's an invitation to linger with that word or phrase, ponder it, let it sink in, and explore the insight it holds for you. The idea is you're never truly done listening to a profound text because it's always capable of revealing something new, depending on where you are in your own life's journey and what you need to hear.
And ultimately, our sources suggest this deep listening leads to something like improvisation, like a jazz band. I love that metaphor.
And me too. It's great. Our sources use the jazz band analogy to illustrate that we're not meant to just rigidly parrot or endlessly rehearse the sheet music of foundational texts or philosophies like playing scales over and over. Instead, we listen deeply to the chords and rhythms, the underlying structure and melody of a central wisdom story or core principles. And then we improvise with our lives. We create a new, coherent, and compelling composition, our unique life that flows naturally from what we've heard and truly internalized.
So our life becomes the song.
Exactly. And the best improvisers, as any musician knows, are by necessity the best listeners. They have to be deeply attuned to the underlying structure, the other players, the developing theme, before they can create something new and beautiful that fits. Our lives become this unique composition flowing from what we've truly heard.
Okay, so beyond written text, our sources talk passionately about listening to creation itself, calling it the big book.
Yes, the natural world is presented as this vast second sacred text, or maybe the first one, a profound source of wisdom to study alongside any human-made texts. It's described as a feast for our spiritual ears. As the monk St. Bernard of Clairvaux famously said centuries ago, you will find something more in woods than in books. Trees and stones will teach you.
Trees and stones will teach you.
Yeah. The idea is that creation preaches constantly through parables, allegories, its very structure and beauty, even without using audible words. Many observers across time, like St. Augustine, have written about their dialogue with the earth, the sea, the sky, all proclaiming in their own silent way the profound order, beauty, and power of their maker, or just the inherent wonder of existence.
So how do we actively listen to creation? I mean, not all of us are going to become naturalists or scientists overnight.
No, it doesn't require that. The long walk is a simple practice suggested in the sources. It's about intentionally unplugging in order to connect with the power that surges through the world, as one writer puts it.
Unplugging to connect.
Yeah. It's like a contemplative reading, a Lectio Divina, but of the big book of creation. You go for a walk, maybe, and consciously slow down. You focus your attention on specific details, the intricate pattern on a lizard's skin, a distant bird call you usually ignore, the sound and feel of wind in the leaves, without needing to immediately analyze or be explicitly theological about it.
Just noticing.
Just noticing. Waking up to the craftsmanship, the intricate design, the sheer isness of things, and letting it speak to you in its own language, letting it evoke wonder or peace or a sense of perspective.
And the universe has its own song, its own rhythms, you mentioned. I heard that surprising fact recently that black holes actually make noise. Is that real?
It is. According to astrophysicist Jan Levin, black holes colliding actually create gravitational waves, ripples in space-time, that are, in essence, a kind of sound. She calls it a sonic composition written on space. It's mind-blowing.
Wow.
But more broadly, the entire universe pulsates with rhythms we can perceive. Morning and evening, cycles of work and rest, the turning of the seasons. Our human lives, our bodies, are designed to function best when lived rhythmically, in step with these natural cycles. Ignoring these rhythms, pulling all-nighters constantly, never resting, often leads to chaos, stress, and burnout.
Which connects back to listening to our bodies.
Exactly. And concepts like a weekly day of rest, the Sabbath in Jewish and Christian tradition, for instance, are presented not just as religious rules, but as profound gifts, clear messages embedded in creation's rhythm that our worth isn't tied solely to endless productivity. Rest is essential.
And the wisdom of the seasons, too. We can let them guide our emotional and spiritual lives, not just our wardrobes.
Definitely. Our sources suggest living a more deciduous life, like trees that shed and renew. Embracing how fall can represent an exhilarating sadness as things are let go, winter can be a natural time for contemplation, quiet, going inward, spring for renewal energy and fresh starts, and summer for openness, growth, and abundance.
Letting nature be a guide.
Yes. And many ancient calendars, including religious ones, often mirrored this wisdom, tying significant events or spiritual seasons, like Christmas near the winter solstice, or Lent during the lengthening days of late winter, early spring, to these natural rhythms. It allows us to cycle through necessary seasons of dormancy and new life, quietness and activity, darkness and light within ourselves. It's about being in sync with something larger.
But creation also groans, doesn't it? It's not all beautiful sunsets. There's suffering. Pain is God's megaphone, as C.S. Lewis put it.
Yes, that's a crucial and painful reality we have to acknowledge. Many traditions, like Paul in the New Testament, describe the natural world groaning in its enslavement or suffering due to human impact. Our rebellion against natural limits, our ongoing abuse through things like climate change, pollution, habitat destruction.
It's hard to ignore.
It is. But importantly, these groans are often reframed in the sources, not merely as deathbed moans, but as delivery room groans. Painful, yes, but carrying the hope and potential for new life, for restoration. And some sources even suggest that the profound interconnectedness of all things means that the very force of creation, or God himself, groans in solidarity with the struggle, sharing in the pain.
And there's an incredible, almost unbelievable anecdote from the sources that illustrates this hope amidst the groaning. The story of the fawn and the baby bobcat.
It's such a striking image. During a devastating forest fire in California, our sources recount this powerful true story. A tiny fawn and a baby bobcat, who would normally be predator and prey, found themselves rescued and placed in a shared cage at a rescue center.
Oh, wow. What happened?
Against all odds, they became fast friends. They apparently played together, ate together, even slept curled up together, refusing to be separated. Our sources describe this unlikely friendship as a quiet prelude, a tiny surprising whisper maybe, of a future hoped-for world where traditional divisions, enmities, and fears fall away, like the prophetic visions in Isaiah.
Like the lion lying down with the lamb.
Exactly. It's a powerful reminder that even in the midst of devastation and groaning, surprising and hopeful connections, moments of grace can emerge if we have eyes to see and ears to hear.
Finally, let's talk about listening to community and culture. This brings it right back to our daily lives with others. What stands out to you here in our sources?
What's fascinating here, and really practical, is the absolute importance emphasized on listening locally, truly tuning into the specific context and needs of the actual community you're in.
Not just importing generic solutions.
Precisely. Our sources share this compelling anecdote of a job interview at a church or community organization where the applicant kept saying their first step would be to just listen to the people, to understand their needs before planning programs. And they actually didn't get the job because the committee felt they weren't proposing enough new ideas up front.
Wow. Missed the point entirely.
Seems like it.
Wow.
And then there's the contrasting example of two similar urban churches. One that slowly dwindled because they kept importing pre-designed programs that didn't quite fit, and another nearby that started to thrive, specifically because they sent their members out with the simple instruction to listen to their neighbors, find out their actual needs and concerns.
And what came of that?
Well, they heard about needs for childcare and help with homework, so they started a small after-school tutoring program. That eventually grew and evolved organically into a full-fledged community center, deeply rooted in and responding to the actual lives and needs of the people right there. It's about addressing reality, not imposing a top-down agenda based on assumptions.
And it means intentionally listening to those who are often neglected or marginalized within a community or society.
Yes, absolutely. Think of historical examples where wise figures, like Jesus with the Samaritan woman, deliberately broke social norms and barriers to listen respectfully to outsiders, to people on the margins.
Giving them a voice.
Or maybe recognizing the voice they already have. There's also that powerful exhortation from the book of James to give up seats of honor, positions of power or privilege, to instead go sit at the feet of the poor and the disheveled, simply to listen and learn from their perspective. Our sources emphasize that often certain people in society don't lack a voice, but rather they lack listeners.
Oof. That's an uncomfortable truth, isn't it? It really challenges us, especially those of us with more privilege.
It does. It requires humility and a willingness to be quiet.
And we might think our communities look pretty homogenous on the surface, but that's often not really the case, is it? We just might not be listening closely enough or creating the right conditions.
That's a key insight. Sometimes a perceived lack of diversity or disagreement isn't actually homogeneity, but rather a lack of tolerance for diversity. People might remain silent, keeping differing opinions or backgrounds hidden, for fear of conflict, judgment, or punishment.
So silence doesn't mean agreement.
Not at all. It can mean a lack of safety. True listening, community listening, requires creating a space where people feel safe enough to express differing opinions, share vulnerable experiences, and bring their whole selves without fear of immediate rejection. It's not about forcing sameness, but fostering safety for difference.
And there's a great concept here from one of our sources, Scott McKnight. Effective communities having their ears to the ground. What does that mean?
It means being actively, intentionally listening to the surrounding culture, the context, the neighborhood, the city, to truly know and ultimately love your neighbors effectively. It's about understanding the currents, the concerns, the hopes, the pains of the place you inhabit.
How do you do that?
Well, it involves listening together as a community. For the story a place is telling, through its very structures, its symbols, its gathering places, its points of tension, its silences. One powerful suggestion is the spiritual discipline of the long community walk. Not just driving through, but walking slowly, observing, soaking it in, discussing what you notice together.
Listening with your feet.
In a way, yes. The call is ultimately beautifully simple, yet profound. Listen to the person nearest you, wherever you are, and prepare to be changed by what you hear.
Wow. We've truly been on a deep dive today, haven't we? Uncovering so many layers of insight into what it really means to live a listening life. From discerning our own inner voices to hearing the ancient wisdom embedded in profound texts and even the silent sermon of creation, it's really clear that listening is a profound and, crucially, an active choice.
Indeed. It really is a choice, moment by moment. We've seen how it can foster intimacy in our relationships, drive genuine self-discovery, and maybe align us with a deeper sense of purpose or connection. It's not necessarily about being glamorous or dynamic or the life of the party, is it? It's about the quiet, often overlooked power that can transform both the listener and the one being heard. As one of our sources beautifully put it, 10,000 true and beautiful words cannot convey love like unhurried listening.
That's powerful. Unhurried listening. So as you, our listeners, go back into your world, maybe consider this. If listening is arguably the first thing we do in life hearing, sounds in the womb, and perhaps the last thing we perceive in death, what if every moment in between was treated as an opportunity for intentional listening?
Imagine the beauty and complexity of the score your life would play then, resonating with deeper rhythms, more wisdom, richer connection. What surprising insights might you uncover, not just about the world around you, but about yourself, your relationships, and your place within it all, simply by choosing again and again to lean in and truly listen?